I was standing in the kitchen sipping my coffee when she said it. 5 words that detonated my world like a bomb. I'm pregnant, but the baby isn't yours. I wish I could tell you I reacted like a rational man, that I stayed calm, that I processed it logically, but my hand jerked, the mug slipped from my fingers, and coffee splashed across the white marble floor like a crime scene. My heart stopped, my breath hitched, my vision blurred for a second as I turned to look at my wife, the woman I had loved, worshipped, and built my entire world around. But the way she stood there, arms crossed, lips slightly parted, a hint of defiance in her eyes, I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of regret. This was a confession, a declaration, and in that instant I knew something else. I wasn't just going to walk away from this. Oh no, I was going to make her regret the day she ever betrayed me. My name is Wesley Thorne, and I'm 36 years old. On the surface, I have everything: a successful career in real estate, a custom-built house in the best part of town, and a wife that turns heads wherever she goes. Amelia Thorne, my high school sweetheart, the woman I fought to keep, the woman I put on a pedestal, the woman who just told me she was carrying another man's child. The room felt too small, too suffocating. The scent of her vanilla perfume made my stomach twist. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might shatter. Say that again, I whispered, my voice so dangerously low I barely recognized it. She exhaled sharply, rolling her eyes like I was being dramatic, like she'd just told me she ordered the wrong coffee and not that she'd let another man put his hands on her, inside her, while I was out here breaking my back to give her a dream life. You heard me, she said, flipping her long caramel brown hair over her shoulder. I'm pregnant, Wes, but you're not the father. I stared at her, searching for some kind of remorse, some flicker of guilt, but all I saw was indifference, maybe even a little amusement. And that's when it hit me. She wanted this. She wanted me to break. She wanted to see me shattered. Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea who you just fucked with. A few minutes passed in unbearable silence. My heart pounded in my ears. I could hear the distant hum of traffic outside, the ticking of the wall clock, the sound of my own breath slowing as the rage inside me turned cold, calculated. Who's the father? I finally asked, keeping my voice level. Her lips curved into a smirk. Does it matter? She teased, tilting her head. You and I both know you could never be a father, Wesley. My blood turned to ice. She knew, she fucking knew. We had been trying for a baby for 2 years. 2 long, painful, heartbreaking years. And every negative test, every failed attempt, every crushing visit to the doctor had chipped away at me, at my masculinity, at my self-worth. Until finally, I had learned the truth. I was infertile. It had wrecked me, destroyed me, but I had told her. I had opened my soul to her, let her see me at my lowest, and she had held me, kissed me, told me it didn't matter, that she loved me, child or no child, lies, all lies. You did this on purpose, I said, realization hitting me like a freight train. You knew I couldn't give you a baby, so you found someone else. She didn't even deny it. She just smiled. I took a slow step toward her. Her expression flickered just for a second, a tiny crack in her confidence, but she recovered quickly. Wes, she said, voice dripping with condescension, I'm moving on. You should too. Be happy for me. Happy? Happy? I could feel my pulse thrumming in my neck, my fists curling at my sides. I wanted to smash something, to throw every expensive plate in the house against the walls until there was nothing left but chaos, destruction, and shattered lies. But instead, I smiled, a slow, dark, knowing smile, because I had just made a decision. She thought she had won. She thought she had the upper hand. But she had no idea what I was about to do next. She wasn't going to just lose me. She was going to lose everything. And when I was done with her, she would wish she had never been born. I didn't say another word to her that night. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I didn't demand answers. No, that's what she wanted. She wanted to see me break. She wanted to see the pain in my eyes, to watch me crumble. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. So instead, I smiled, calm, controlled, dangerous. I stepped forward so close that I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her gaze, and then in a voice so low it made her swallow nervously, I whispered, "You're right, Amelia, I should be happy for you." Then I turned around and walked away. Not just from that conversation, not just from that night, but from the man she thought she knew. For the next 2 weeks, I played my role perfectly. I didn't confront her again. I didn't ask any more questions. I acted like a man in denial, like a man too shattered to fight back. I let her believe I was weak, that she had won. And in the meantime, I was planning her downfall. Step 1, find out who the father was. Step 2, destroy them both. I had spent over a decade building a successful career in real estate. I knew people, I had connections, and most importantly, I had money, a lot of it. Money that could buy loyalty, silence, and information. So I made a few calls, quietly, discreetly, and within 3 days I had a name, Miles Decker. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. Miles fucking Decker. I knew him. Of course I did. He was my business partner, my best friend, the man I had gone golfing with every Sunday for the past 6 years, the man I had invited to dinner, celebrated wins with, and trusted with multi-million-dollar deals. And apparently, the man who had been fucking my wife behind my back. Oh, this just got interesting. I sat in my office staring at the name on my phone screen. My fingers itched to call him, to demand answers, to rip him apart piece by piece. But that would be too easy. No, I wanted him to suffer too. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. I was good at playing the long game. I had closed some of the biggest deals in the industry by knowing how to be patient, how to strike at the perfect moment. And this was the deal of a lifetime. That night I walked into the house like nothing was wrong. Amelia was in the kitchen, sipping a glass of wine. I stopped in the doorway, watching her. She looked comfortable, too comfortable. She had won in her mind. She had told me the truth, and I had done nothing about it. I walked up behind her, resting my hands lightly on her waist. She stiffened slightly, but then recovered. "You're home late," she said, her tone casual. "Yeah, had a meeting." She turned around, giving me an amused look. "You still working hard for this marriage, Wes?" she teased. I smiled. "Of course, baby. Someone has to take care of you." Her smirk widened. She thought she had me wrapped around her little finger. God, she had no idea what was coming. The next morning I made my move. I scheduled an emergency board meeting at my company. Every senior executive, investor, and shareholder was present, including Miles. I walked in with a calm, calculated smile, making small talk, shaking hands. Then I stood at the head of the conference table and dropped the bomb. "It's come to my attention that a member of this company has been engaging in unethical and highly inappropriate behavior that violates our corporate policies and, more importantly, my personal trust." Miles stiffened across the table. "As of today, Miles Decker is officially under investigation for corporate fraud and embezzlement." The room exploded. Gasps, murmurs, shocked expressions. Miles shot up from his chair. "What the FK are you talking about?" I turned to him slowly, my expression unreadable. "Oh, you don't know?" I tilted my head. "I have evidence, Miles. Documents, wire transfers, reports, all tracing back to you." His face went pale. He knew. He knew he was fucked. And the best part? I didn't have a single shred of real evidence. I didn't need to. Because in the business world, perception is reality. And I had just painted him as a criminal in front of the most powerful people in the company. He was finished. I went home that night feeling high, powerful, unstoppable. Amelia was in the bedroom, scrolling through her phone when I walked in. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching her for a moment before I spoke. "Miles got fired today." She looked up sharply. I smiled, slow, sinister. They're investigating him for fraud. Her lips parted slightly. A flicker of panic flashed in her eyes. She knew what this meant. Her lover was now broke, unemployed, and disgraced. I reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She flinched. Good. You look worried, sweetheart, I murmured, my fingers trailing down her jaw. You should be. Because I wasn't done. Not even close, and she was next. She didn't sleep that night, and I could feel it. The way she shifted in bed, the way her breathing was uneven, the way she stole glances at me in the dark as if she could sense that something was coming for her. And she was right, because Miles, he was only step one. She was next. But unlike him, I wasn't going to ruin her in a single move. No, she needed to feel this. She needed to live in the fear, in the uncertainty, in the slow, suffocating realization that her life was about to fall apart in ways she could never even imagine. And I was going to enjoy every second of it. The next morning she was quiet, too quiet. She barely touched her breakfast, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. When I leaned in to kiss her before leaving for work, she flinched. Oh, sweetheart, are you scared? Good, be scared. But she still didn't say anything. She still thought she could control this. She still thought she had power. And that was my favorite part, because she was about to learn just how powerless she truly was. That afternoon, I made my next move. Step 2, rip away her security. For years, Amelia had lived like a queen, designer bags, luxury vacations, a black card with no limit. Everything she had ever wanted, I had given her. And today, I took it all back. I walked into my lawyer's office and within an hour had every joint account frozen, every credit card canceled, every asset locked. Everything was in my name. She had nothing, not a single cent, not a single lifeline. And just to twist the knife a little deeper, I had a package delivered to the house that evening. A single envelope, no name, no return address. Inside, a copy of our bank statements, all zeros, and a single note written in my precise, elegant handwriting. Enjoy your independence, sweetheart. Let's see how much he loves you when you're broke. When I walked through the front door that night, she was waiting. She was standing in the middle of the living room, the open envelope clenched in her hands, her face pale, and for the first time in this entire game, I saw fear in her eyes. You froze my accounts, she said, her voice shaking slightly. I set my keys down, tilting my head as I unbuttoned my sleeves. Of course I did, I said simply. She blinked. Wes? No, I cut her off, stepping closer. She stiffened, gripping the envelope like it was her last defense. You thought you could play me, Amelia. You thought you could take my money, my love, my life, and then just run off into the sunset with another man's baby? I leaned in, dropping my voice to a whisper. Tell me, sweetheart, how does it feel, knowing you have nothing, knowing your little fantasy is crumbling around you? Her breath hitched. She was unraveling. Good. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. The next evening I sent her another little gift, a single envelope, a single photograph inside, of Miles, shirtless, on the balcony of his cheap new apartment, drinking alone. A second note written just for her. Still think he's your knight in shining armor? I imagined her reaction, the way she would stare at that photo, her stomach twisting, her heart racing, because she had made her choice. She had picked him, and now she was starting to realize he wasn't picking her back. I played my role perfectly. I let her stew in it, in the fear, in the uncertainty, and then, just when she thought things couldn't get any worse, I turned up the heat. I started going out more, staying late, coming home at odd hours, and every time she asked where I had been, I smiled. Why do you care, I would say, tilting my head. You moved on, remember? And God, the way her face twisted with frustration. She was drowning. She was desperate to control me again. But the best part? She never would, because she wasn't just losing me. She was losing her mind. And then, one night, I went for the kill. I came home late Later than usual, my shirt slightly undone, a hint of lipstick on my collar, just enough to plant the seed. She was waiting in the living room. This time, she looked angry. "Who is she?" she demanded, arms crossed. I blinked, then laughed, actually laughed. She flinched at the sound, her face darkening. "You don't get to ask that," I murmured, walking past her. Casual, unbothered, untouchable. But she wasn't done. She stormed after me, her voice rising. "Are you seeing someone, Wesley?" I stopped at the doorway, turning my head just slightly. And then I smiled. "Why do you care?" I said again, my voice a quiet, deadly whisper. She didn't answer, because she knew. She had lost everything. And I had never felt more powerful. But the best part? I still wasn't finished. Not yet. Not until she was completely, utterly, and beautifully destroyed. She didn't sleep that night. Again. I could feel it. Her tossing, her restless breathing, the way her body tensed every time I moved. She was spiraling, and I was thriving. For weeks I had been orchestrating her downfall piece by piece, like a perfectly crafted symphony of destruction. Every note precise, every move calculated. I had stripped away her lover, gone, broke, disgraced. I had stolen her financial security. No money, no power, no safety net. And now she was losing her mind, and I was just getting started. The next day I set the final trap. It was time to deliver the final blow, the one that would break her completely. That evening I walked through the front door a little later than usual. She was waiting. This time, she wasn't just restless, she wasn't just afraid. She was desperate. Her makeup was done, subtly but intentionally. Her hair was styled, her dress a little tighter than usual. "Oh, Amelia, are you trying to seduce me back? How cute." "Where have you been?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I smirked. "Out." "Out where?" I took off my jacket, loosening the top button of my shirt as I stepped closer. "Why do you care?" She swallowed, her throat tightening. She hated that line, because it was hers. She had said it to me that first night when she told me she was carrying another man's baby. She had mocked me with it, used it to tear me apart, and now it was haunting her. She took a deep breath, trying to regain control. "Wes, listen, I cut her off. I have something to show you." She blinked, startled by my sudden shift in tone. I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, then turned the screen toward her. A video began to play. Her expression changed instantly. Confusion, horror, and then absolute devastation. Because there, on the screen, was Miles, sitting in a bar, laughing, flirting, kissing another woman. And not just any woman, a young, blonde, beautiful woman who was visibly pregnant. Her mouth fell open. She looked at me, then back at the video, shaking. "No," she whispered. "No, this isn't real." "Oh, but it is," I murmured, tilting my head. "Miles moved on, Amelia, while you were sitting here waiting for him to come rescue you. He found someone else." Her hands trembled as she clutched the phone. She looked broken. Perfect, because I wasn't done. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a whisper. "And guess what, sweetheart? That baby she's carrying, it's his." Boom! The final explosion, and her entire world collapsed in real time. I saw it. I felt it. She swayed slightly, her face pale, her lips parted in a silent gasp. She choked. "He said he loved me." I laughed, actually laughed. "Oh, Amelia," I smirked, shaking my head. "Did you really think you were special? Did you really think a man who could betray his best friend would stay loyal to you?" Tears welled in her eyes. Her breath hitched. And then the final crack. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, utterly, completely destroyed. And I had never felt more satisfied. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Not until I gave her the final goodbye. I crouched down beside her, brushing my fingers through her hair gently. She flinched. She should. "You made your choice," I whispered. "Now, live with it." I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked to the door. She gasped, scrambling after me, grabbing onto my sleeve like a desperate woman clinging to the last piece of wreckage in a sinking ship. "Please," she choked out. "Wes, I turned, cold, detached, done. "Goodbye, Amelia." Then I pulled the final move. I reached into my pocket, pulled out an envelope, and dropped it at her feet. She looked down, then back up at me. "What is this?" she whispered. I smiled, cruel, satisfied, victorious. "Divorce papers." And then I walked out of that house, out of that marriage, out of her life. I didn't turn back. I didn't hesitate. I didn't feel a single ounce of regret, because this was never about getting her back. This was about making her pay. And now she had nothing, not her lover, not her money, not me, just the ruins of her own choices. And that was the best revenge of all.